Right, cool, yeah. Sweet. Enjoy that. Bon appetit.
Hey, hey. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But you know one thing we haven't touched on, which actually was a massive part of 2020, the protests throughout the year.
Correct.
Black Lives Matter.
That was during May. Or was it even June? It was June. It was May, June time.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
I'm gonna crack open this one.
Well, I say this is, now we're going to
You
this
know you
space.
can have a gin if you want.
I think I will, just because
it's heavy.
We're gonna enter this space.
It's
Hang on.
heavy.
Um,
See, first of all, can I just point out,
yeah, go
me
on.
and Lemz had a plan, right? We said we're gonna bring some alcohol here. He was talking all big, giving it a big
I bring some
talk.
Rays.
Ray and nephews.
You're gonna bring some red wine. You
No,
didn't
no,
bring
no.
any red wine.
No, because
I didn't bring any
also,
Rays.
who am I?
So-
I would
so
have
what's
been
the
drinking. I would have been drinking a bottle to myself, mate. Anyway,
Well, this
yeah.
is like-
So
Okay, yeah. So yeah, serious stuff, because it is serious. So as many people know and saw, unfortunately, George Floyd was murdered by a police officer after he was put in a chokehold position with the knee by the police officer for 8 minutes and 46 seconds.
no, he had his knee on his neck.
He had his knee on his neck, so
Yeah.
it wasn't not a chokehold like he's
Yeah.
choking him with his arm, but with his knee on his neck, 8 minutes and 46 seconds, because something like a counterfeit check or something of that nature. That was alongside the pandemic that's already happening across the world, alongside lockdowns, alongside people feeling like there's desperation and a big severance between different communities and big divides, alongside a presidency that continues to highlight and exacerbate these
Oh,
divisions.
these big words. Private
You know what
school.
school? Yeah, we went
Yeah.
to private school, innit? So yeah.
Go on.
That's another thing that we'll
I
have to
know,
talk
yeah.
about another time as well.
But yeah,
She's
go on.
filtered into a whole narrative and feeling of it's time to fight. It's time to show that this is not going to be stood for anymore. And for anyone who thinks, oh, this happened because of George, because I remember when you and I went to the thing that it didn't get to me, but on the train on the way back, a guy questioned us
because me
like,
and Lemz, we went to the protest together.
but
I
We
was
met
there
each
with
other
two of my
there, innit?
friends, and then for
Yeah.
some reason, like Notting Hill car, I'm gonna meet you when I'm there. And I remember getting there thinking, I don't know how
Ain't
you're
gonna
gonna
see this
meet
guy,
me
innit?
because
Yeah.
it's like basically
Bare
Notting Hill
people.
Carnival,
Yeah,
but the whole
bare
other side of
people.
the spectrum of why we're here. We're not here to
literally.
party. We're here to
Literally,
fight.
yeah.
And we'll not fight, obviously physically, but protest.
Use our
but
voices,
we
though,
actually, we linked
We linked up.
and then made our way back together. Yeah.
And I went to the protest, the Black Lives Matter protest, those are, in 2015, 16 times. And I remember at the end of it, I was like, I'm never coming to a protest again. Because I was just like, it just felt so self-defeating because we marched around, we walked around, we like shut down Regent's Street, shut down Oxford Street. I remember looking to the sides and thinking, there's people just videoing it. Okay, cool, whatever. Then when we got to Marble Arch, it was like, all right, so what are we doing now? What's happening? And as soon as I was like, there's no plan. I felt like there was no, I was like, fuck, this is so, who are we talking to? First of all, that was, and all of these different questions, because I've been on other protests where we protested and the eventuality still went against us. Student loans, bring back our girls, this BLM one from Mike Brown, that kind of era, and Philando Castile, all of that kind of era, 2015, 16. So come 2020, I'm like, nah, I'm not even going to go, man. I'm just like, there's other stuff I should do. However, I remember my sister, my youngest sister, Gabs, she went to the one that was in Hyde Park and it had like John Boyega, I think maybe Dave might have been there, all this stuff. I was like, do you know what? What else am I doing? What else am I actually doing about, or how else am I making this a thing?
Yeah.
So for me, that was enough for me to be like, nah, let me get off my arse and actually go to the one that's in Parliament Square. Because again, in my head, I'm like, we're talking directly to the people that need to hear this. Downing Street, we're there. Parliament Square, we're there. So you lot who are in the house, we're talking to you directly, innit? And being there, I remember one of the first faces I saw was Getz as well, actually. I was like, so big up Getz for being there, actually. But just seeing him there, I was like, sick. Seeing the amount of people there as well, I was like, sick. And then looking for you, I found you pretty quickly, actually.
Yeah.
And then us all together, the chants are happening. We're all pretty static as well. But we've locked it down. Like, we've locked Westminster down. And I'm just like, I was so happy to be there just because it felt necessary. It felt essential. And it wasn't, I don't think I posted anything on social media that day,
Mm.
which may have been to my I don't know, but whatever. Just being present
Yeah.
and being amongst other people who share the same sentiment, some more extreme, some less extreme, whatever it is, we're all there because enough is enough. If you don't show us that, like, our lives mean as much as everybody else's, which is all the statement Black Lives Matter means. If people need the rest of the sentence, it means Black Lives Matter as much as everybody else's lives, not more than everyone else, and no one else's lives matter. Like, whoever can't interpret that, please seek help. But being there was so powerful, and necessary is the word I use, isn't it? Necessary, because despite me by the end feeling like, oh, okay, cool, I'm here, I've done it, what else can I do? Because I feel like for me, I'm at that age and mindset and whatever where I'm like, protests are cool, but there is something else to happen. There's the next stage, there's the next step, whether that's us talking about it here, creating some sort of infrastructure. I've seen political parties that have come from it, blah, blah, blah. I did an online protest as well, which I'll talk about. But just the whole movement was so integral to just creating the conversation before anything else. And we've seen the effects. Premier League, they all had to kneel at the beginning. Whether people think,
but
it's
the
just
Met now
optics,
have actually, now they're looking into
institutional, all of these things that affect black people, young black people in particular. It's not just because of George Floyd.
No.
It's not just because of 2015-16 Black Lives Matter. It's because of Stephen Lawrence. It's because of the New Crossfires in the 80s. It's because of the Brixton riots. It's because of
something that's been going on
stuff
for ages.
It's because of the Windrush generation coming here. It's because of all of these things that
because
are
of slavery.
Phases. It's because of all of these things throughout generations that have elucidated the fact that a system, a white supremacist system, does not value black lives as much as other people. That at some point, those who are of the black whatever community, however we want to put it, just black people, and those who understand that plight will say, no, enough is enough. Do you know what? One thing before you jump in as well, the term white privilege, I really need to get into this just real quickly.
Let's break it down.
A lot of people don't get it.
No.
Because as we said, I went to a private school, so a lot of people might hear
it with your chest.
I went to a private school, guys. Yes.
Yeah.
I'll say it to this camera. I'll say it to this camera.
He went to a private school.
So I know a lot of people.
I didn't.
A lot of people were like, "Oh, what are you talking about?" Or people know, "What are you talking about privilege?" Because or plight. Because
I can imagine maybe you had it more around you, because I didn't feel like I had to explain so much what white privilege was around.
Neither did I, to be honest. Because again, maybe just because people don't automatically assume that that's the school I went to, whatever, and because the people I have around tend to not have to ask me those questions.
Okay.
But I do remember having to explain this once on Twitter to someone. I just thought, this is long, which is why I don't really go on Twitter as well. But it's not about your socioeconomic standard. Or it's not about your economic or financial standard, I should say. It is your social sitting in this system that is designed for and by white people. And even me saying that, that's not to say that that in itself is racist. It's just to say, if there are biases which suit white people more, whether it is Form 696, for instance, which meant any music that had some form of bass, because we know black people love bass music of some variation, repetitive beats. We're the ones who create loop patterns, because that's what we had to do from hip hop, where we had the breaks and just put them on loop.
Education, Lemzi.
Come on, we day on it. But all of these different kind of things that are done in a way where it doesn't explicitly say black, brown people or BAME, whatever, but the wording is used so then it curtails anything that we're doing. You have to see that you have a form of privilege, because nothing has been written in law to try and stop you from expressing yourself. Even if me and a white person go into a pub, there is a perspective of who I am, which is typically associated with negative connotation, just because that's what's perpetuated most. And a white person who doesn't necessarily have the asterisks of black male who's walked into a place. It's just a person who's walked into a place. Unless obviously there's, like, I don't know, it's Notting Hill Carnival where it's like, oh yeah, it's a white person's there. But typically, that is the definition of white privilege. Just having the social standard of not having the asterisk next to your name or next to who you are, of this black male female, this brown male female has walked in. It's just this person
Yeah.
or their
Exactly.
name,
The
just their
freedom
name
of
in it.
that.
Yeah, the freedom, of that
of that.
is the privilege in itself. It's
Absolutely.
not actually more than that. It's not less than that. But yeah, it was a mad phase. The whole, and it's not done,
Yeah,
which is
it's
something
still
that people
here.
have to understand. It's not done.
Yeah.
But there are times where you're gonna feel the wrath, and there's other times where you're gonna notice there's more conversations, and there's times where people are gonna sit back and watch.
Yeah.
Right now, there's still conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know what it was for me around that time? Because obviously lockdown in itself had kind of brought to surface a lot of emotions. I was already feeling frustrated anyway, working at home. And I was already very conscious of the fact I wasn't around many black people. When I'm in my team meetings, I'm the only non-white person there. I'm very conscious I'm a mixed race girl, so how people might view me might differ. I might be the more kind of like acceptable black person. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I'm still conscious of that, but still I'm not seeing any other black people in this place. So there was already these feelings that I had there. And when all this came to surface, I remember the first time I watched a video of George Floyd and I wasn't shocked. And that's what got me.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I've just watched a black man die in front of my face.
Murdered.
And at the hands of a white police officer. And I'm not shocked by that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what started to evoke more of emotion out of me. I was like, I've become desensitized to it now. Because of how much we see it, because of how much this has gone on. And then I started to get more and more angry that it was everywhere on the web. And it was not censored at all. It was not censored at all. And that's what was getting me. And I remember, it was even catching me at moments where I literally remember one morning I woke up and I couldn't stop crying. It's like all these emotions had come to surface. It wasn't, and I don't say just in a way of like just about George Floyd, but George Floyd was a representation of this audacity, basically, of that. I'm going to do this in plain sight and I don't care.
Exactly.
And that's what had been going on for years. Now, my relationship with racism is I grew up in Hackney, very multicultural area. I went to very multicultural schools. My primary school actually was predominantly black anyway. So I had never really felt racism properly until I went to university. And this is when I understood the microaggressions of racism. When I went to university outside of London, I went to Manchester Met, but I was in Crewe, the middle of nowhere, where my goodness, I was like, where are the black people? Like, I remember literally my housemate moving in. Shout out to Miles. I remember seeing his dad and I was like, oh my God, his dad's black. Okay. There's some, do you know what I mean? And I didn't, and the thing is, I think any black person feels that when they go out of an area that doesn't have many black people, that you feel this like almost safety or just, I can
100.
kind of relax a little bit. Because
that's why when people question, oh, why'd you nod at that? But it's like, there's just that understanding that like, I recognize you recognize me because we are the outliers on this road.
Literally. And it's because of when I'm in a space where I am the only one, it's not even a case of me being conscious of that. I'm conscious of the fact that everyone else is conscious of I am not white. And for me in uni, I didn't see it as an issue as such until when we started talking about race in my classrooms. And I remember at one point when my lecturers had played us all. So I was studying contemporary theatre and it was obviously all about theatre and all its different forms. And unfortunately, blackface was a part of our theatre history, especially in this country. And I remember, and contemporary theatre especially is about pushing boundaries. So sometimes it can be offensive deliberately, which I don't think blackface was intentionally trying to be. They just is ignorance to the T. But we all sat down and we watched a video of blackface. And I remember afterwards, the lecturer turned around and said, so what do we think about that? And everyone looked at me. And I remember I was like, I'm not the spokesperson of all black people here. But literally, it's like, people feel like they can't even comment on racism. And even within my own, like, uni home, because me and Miles would talk about it all the time, like talk about racism. And I remember one of my housemates who's white saying, I feel like I can't really say anything on the matter. Thinking, bro, who do you think was the one that was enslaving black people? I think you have every right to say something. But also, do you know what I mean? But also, it's okay, take away the race. On a humane level, you have another person enslaving someone else, which unfortunately is on the basis of their skin complexion. You feel like you don't have anything to say. And literally, this is when I got more and more riled up, and there were so many microaggressions, so many little ones. And this is what got me with the protest as well, because it's okay when it's one little thing that happens. You might slide it.
Yeah.
Not say anything. And then something else happens. You slide it. When it's a collection of things.
Yeah, you have enough evidence now.
You have enough evidence. So you know what I did in uni? I said, okay, it's dissertation time. I'm writing it on race, because clearly I'm the spokesperson of race in this class. Because there's only me and this other girl. Shout out to Bella, who was the only other black girl on the course. We were the only black people on the course. Mad. And I was like, you know what? Everyone wants to look at me about race. I'm going to research it and I'm going to teach you all. So I've done my dissertation about... basically, I had to relate it back to theatre, but really it was about breaking down what race even is. And that's when my whole eyes woke up. Because my mum had been trying to educate me for time growing up, because she's a Caribbean woman. She was trying to educate me on the history. I was very ignorant at the time. I was very like, oh, mum, this doesn't matter. Little did I know, yeah, it really doesn't matter. Anyway, so I'm doing my own research, and through that I was like, wow, why are we not talking about this? So then I had 2 presentations that I had to give to the class, part of my dissertation as well. And I've done one on it about explaining racism, and I've done one on it explaining white supremacy. The first one I've done about racism, and obviously at the end of every presentation, it's about you. Oh, so has anyone got any questions? I had loads of questions about racism. Yeah, well, what about when black people are racist to white people? Okay, all right. Well, okay, we can talk about this. Obviously, you weren't listening to what I was saying. And also, I was very bold. I remember I had in black and white on the white screen, I was like, racism is a white man's problem. And I remember looking around at just a class full of white people. You had that
before Eddie's book. No, Rennie's book, sorry. Why I'm no longer talking to you.
Yeah, literally.
Big up you. Big up you.
Literally. And I remember big, bold statements. And shout out to Miles, though, because I used to talk about this to him throughout doing that. And he really kind of gave me that courage to just be like, just talk the things.
Yeah.
And obviously I'm not in a room full of white people. Even my lecturer, shout out to Jane Turner, because obviously during my dissertation, you got to have the meetings with them, go over the drafts. Yeah. She was all for it. She was like, get in there. She was breaking it down. And this is my thing. Yes, white people, you can talk about racism and you can talk about it from a standpoint that is healthy. Because I'm not looking at you and I'm saying, you are racist. But you can look at how you've definitely reaped the benefits.
This privilege.
Do you know what I mean?
Just accept and acknowledge it. That's it.
This is what I'm saying.
No one's asking you to now be on your knees and start bowing to anybody.
No, I'm not asking everyone to get on the floor and start taking off their things and giving it back to me. Do you know what I mean? But when I'm talking about white supremacy, there was not a hand up in sight. People were looking at me like this.
The ignorant, swear down.
They did it. It's like, and then getting back to the B&M protest now. Yeah. So obviously this is all happening. Everyone starts to put up their hashtags and I stand with you and da 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 da. So I go on my Facebook because that's where most of the people from my uni I have them on. I don't go on Facebook much, but I was like, let me see what they're saying on Facebook. I'm getting all this. I didn't understand. I didn't realise I'm going to do my research. And I'm thinking, bro, I gave you 2 presentations in uni where I explained this to you.
6 years ago or something as well.
And only now you want to turn around and be like, you don't understand. You had one of the only black people in your class breaking it down for you. You didn't want to listen. But now, because everyone is talking about it, and you almost feel like if you don't listen, you're going to get cussed for it.
Yeah.
Now you want, I didn't know. What are you talking about? What are you actually talking about? And then it's all these little things. I'm dealing with domestic abuse for one. So that's another injustice. Then I just go on my social media and I'm seeing black people being treated in a way that I know normally happens, but it's just so blatant. Yeah. And I remember we had a team meeting. Well, yeah, we had our one-to-ones. And I woke up and I remember it was one of the nights I just couldn't sleep. I just literally just couldn't sleep. It was so much on my mind. And then I was like, you know what? I don't even want to, like, I want her to feel how I feel. So we have to obviously put the cameras on, etiquette. Literally, I'm in my bed. My hair's like this to the side. And then she's like, how are you? Oh, how are you? And I was like, I'm not okay. And I broke down and I made her watch.
Did you actually cry as well, yeah?
I cried.
Yeah, no.
I cried.
That's
I was
how
like,
you
I'm
feel.
not okay. I said, I'm not okay. I was like, there's so much happening right now. Because bearing in mind, this is around the same time when they're saying black and brown people are disproportionately being affected by COVID.
Yes,
around the
I remember that
same
whole
time.
thing as well. That was
So I'm
jarring.
just a bit like, why do you actually think I'm okay? Why have you assumed that I'm okay?
Yeah, of course.
Do you know what I mean? So I had to break it down to her. And then... I mean, I'm gonna get into it actually. She said something that I just didn't sit well with me at all. So I'm explaining to her, and I was like, I've not really been able to sleep over the last couple of days. I keep crying.
Yeah.
And then she said to me, well, maybe like you need support with your mental health. And I remember thinking in my head, you think this is about mental health? And I was like, that's a byproduct of what this is.
Exactly.
This is a
That's a
systemic
symptom.
problem. This is not in my head what is happening. It's affecting what's going on in my head. But if it's I have control of what's going on in my head. I don't have control over this. Anyway, she was
Do you know what, yeah? Sorry to cut you, but that's what becomes a problem when we have buzzwords in it. As soon as like mental health is a topic, it's like, all right, for optics or for whatever purpose, I'll throw this in whenever I can. Rather than listening to you and really trying to evaluate, okay, this might be what's going on, I was going to throw mental health at you and you'll feel like I've done my job kind of thing. It's like, no. Have you even considered the implications of watching somebody who you feel is a part of you almost
You know what I mean?
being murdered? And not just that, the resonance that has with previous images or ideas of your own people's just being killed. Like, no, it's not just meant, as you said, it's not something going on in my head. It's because of these external factors, I now have to live with this shit in my head.
Exactly.
It's mad.
And then she told me to call the employment support helpline, which I'd never done before. And I was like, you know what?
Try that.
We're going to call them today.
And
then I remember calling, and I didn't know what to expect. So it's basically, they're counsellors that 24-hour, you can call them up and talk to them whenever. And you get through to someone first, and they ask you the nature of like why you want to call.
Yeah.
And I said, am I able to select the type of counsellor I speak with? Because I was like, I'm not chatting to a white woman or a white man about this.
Doesn't make sense.
I'm not.
And
I was like, is there any way that I can get someone that is not white? And I remember that they put me on the phone. I don't know what ethnicity she was, but I don't know what it is as well. You can hear in the voice that they're not, but also the name. I think maybe she might have been Asian or Middle Eastern, but I just knew she wasn't white. So I knew she was going to understand on some kind of level what I was talking about. So she was like, okay, Amelia, what's going on? And I just let it rip. And I was like, and then this is happening in America, but obviously there's so many things that have happened over here.
100%.
And then even when I'm just sitting in a meeting room and I'm the only white person, I'm the only non-white person there. And even just microaggressions of someone talking over me or talking for me or almost having like they have to explain what I've said, like I'm not speaking English. I was like, there's all these things. And I was like, I'm tired. And she basically said, sounds like you need to take some time off. I mean, she was like, you know what? You take time off. Take as much time off as you want. And you take care of yourself. She said you have every right to feel the way that you're feeling right now. And you need to honour that. So, 12 o'clock, I said to my manager, I'm taking time off. I don't know when I'll be back. And I just done my thing. I said, and you know what it is? I spent a lot of time with my friends around that time, and I needed to. I needed to be around people that I could have conversations where I didn't have to explain.
Miles, in uni, it's so important to have at least that one voice. I feel like we were speaking about this towards the beginning, but just having that sense of someone you can just talk to and let it out with, and just
you don't have to explain.
Exactly, it's not an explanation.
Or
it's
justify.
Sometimes presence, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes people's presence is so important because they get it from, if you're sitting next to them, they won't think mental health. They'll just go straight to I know
Absolutely.
you're not good because I saw that shit too and that fucked me up. Like, and we can talk about it, or we can just accept the fact that we both feel bad right now and we don't want to talk about it.
Do you know? And the thing is, I don't think we ever spoke about it. Do you know what I mean? I think it was a case of like,
it was just
you going to the
understanding.
protest.
Yeah, exactly. You going?
It was literally like,
yeah.
all right, yeah,
and it wasn't
we're
like,
going.
oh, why are you going to the protest? Are
Yeah.
you sure you should? No, it's like, I'm going. You cool.
And
let's run it.
I love that. Where it's like, it's that look, it's that nod. Don't even.
The less
Literally,
said, the
say
better
less.
sometimes, isn't it?
Say
The
less.
said.
I know. And I think everyone at that protest, there was not really conversations.
Yeah.
Even if such.
Even the chants were like the same 6 chants repeated over it, because it was like, we're not gonna stand here and do bare public speech. Like, nah. Justice for.
And the thing is,
Say his name.
then it annoyed me getting home and the press are trying to say it was violent. And when we were there, did we see one thing that was violent?
Sky News, yeah. When I saw all of the stuff like the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, I was like, what? How have they managed to spin this? Because when we were there, I'll be real, yeah, it got so calm at one point when we were by down the street that it got a bit boring, innit? Like, generally, I remember feeling like, oh, shit, nothing's happening. It's time to go. So we left. And what? It takes, maybe just because there were bare people around, it maybe took an hour and a half max to get home or something. By the time I get home, there's rain, there's police falling off of horses, there's people scurrying out the way, and I'm thinking,
holding people there.
And the worst thing is, I remember on Sky Specific, because that was the one my parents were watching when I got home. They're repeating the same clip over and over again, and I was like, wow, this game of media reinforcement is really palpable right now.
And I think that's another whole thing that I've clocked in this year, because the messages that when they were talking about COVID, this is when I was like, you know what? I'm turning off my TV. I'm not listening to the news anymore, because the almost a responsibility that, not even responsibility, the power that media has to keep pushing these images out, to keep pushing these feelings out, because they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. With lockdown, I get it. Okay, it's a pandemic. You want to keep people indoors. You want to manage it or whatever. But it got to the point where every day I must know how many people are dying.
And this isn't even to come off as conspiracy theorist sounding, but like...
You're creative. You're a conspiracy.
What is it? I'm a free thinker. That's what they say. I'm a free thinker. But okay, cool. X amount of people may have passed away on a certain day. What is the objective from... Okay, cool. I know the fact now, innit? Who are these people? Like, how have they died?
Oh, remember,
is it people in a certain area of a certain...
It was black and brown people.
Even so that just sounds like we are predisposed to like suffering from this new virus when it didn't exist until like just now. But what are you actually saying? No, you're actually saying people from economically disadvantaged areas where they live on top of each other, or there's high population density,
the frontline workers.
The frontline workers, which all just so happen to be predominantly, they don't want to say that whole sentence because that is A, too much work for them, and B, what's the objective in it? Like, are you trying to tell us we, as in us in this room and other people, are more genetically predisposed to suffering, or are you trying to tell people that, or not trying to tell people the circumstances that you've got them in is what's going to make them suffer more? And just because of that lack of transparency, giving us a taste of the facts is not good enough for me.
Yeah.
Spill it out, like say it.
Yeah, basically. And it got to the point where I just kind of felt it was irresponsible.
Yeah.
I felt, because you are playing with people's mental health. But then also that for me was almost like, so now we're almost saying in a sense that we're losing lives, and obviously we don't want to lose lives. And that up against racism, where we're losing lives all the time.
I remember people saying like, this is another pandemic that we've been suffering for time.
Literally, I remember my placard, which I had to take down off Instagram because I just for reasons of when I joined certain organisations. But my placard said white supremacy is a virus. Because that's been killing people. Because also the fact that we still have to argue why the slave trade needs to be talked more about, and not pushed down the throats of black kids so much, to the sense where that they feel like that's the only black history that they have. But also just to understand when someone wants to come up to me and be like, oh, well, you know, racism doesn't exist anymore. How do you think that dies? It hasn't. We're still coming out of those ages. We're still coming out of that. Do you just think after when you freed slaves who had nothing, that like, oh yeah, we just walked into jobs. Black people couldn't get jobs for times. They couldn't get mortgages for times. They couldn't get loans for times. Like, what are you talking about?
Even when they did, there's enough evidence to show that they were being prevented from actually prospering. So stuff like Tulsa 1920s, their Black Wall Street, it got burnt down because white people didn't want to see black people prosper. It's like, you can't have your own economy. You can't be separatist. Even if that's something that we want as well. It's like, you can't have that because you're going to do too. And it's, all that stuff is effed. And anyone who needs an example of if there is still racism in the UK, just look at some of the responses to that Sainsbury's advert. Yeah, that
So
Sainsbury's
ridiculous.
Christmas advert will tell you how many people were upset.
In the
And,
same
like,
year,
I'm
in the
just-
same year, we protest about this.
Do you know, usually I share stuff, innit? Actually, no, not even usually, but that might have been something I would share 6 months to a year ago. But when I saw it, I was like, ha! And just moved on because I thought, I have nothing to say. I don't want to tell other people as well, like, how ridiculous a lot of people out there still are. Like, I'm going to laugh and move on because it's so ridiculous. There's 3 adverts. It's not even like this is the only thing Sainsbury's are pushing.
They just show all black
this is...
family who are darker skin, rather than you're like, oh, let's mix it up and make it kind of like, oh, mixed race. No, they're a black family. But in my head, I'm thinking, do you not think black people have Christmas in this country?
Some
Do you not
people
think
don't, apparently.
that's not what it's going to
Some
look
people
like?
really thought the whole thing was just a
Anyone
mindfuck
would
for
think
them,
that they're
like,
speaking in another like, bro, they're speaking, like, you can hear what they're
that was one
saying.
of the tweets. So like, oh, great advert. I'll wait for the English version, please. I remember thinking, bro,
Just
like, we're there.
Just the
We're still
audacity.
there.
And you know what it is? It's people are just comfortable coming out with this, which is actually fine. I'm glad you feel comfortable because then we can all see.
Yeah, then we know, innit? Then we
for what
know.
it is. But people are like, oh, thanks, Sainsbury's for getting on the BLM bandwagon. Now actually, all we did was just shining a light on what's happening. And you know what? Props to Sainsbury's, because I see their even though, to be honest, if we look at their board, because if we really want to make some changes around here, you know, we're gonna have to start having black people running things,
100,
not just in the
not just-
adverts.
yeah.
Like, this is another thing though. We seem to think, well, some people seem to think, you know, it's about representation. No, the way we get change is people being involved in who makes the decisions.
Kanye
The
always said that,
policy
you know.
makers.
I remember Kanye saying that, where it's like, while NBA players and while myself are running around just playing ball or whatever, it's great. As soon as we have to make decisions, it becomes a problem. Or as soon as we may be able to make the decisions, it's a problem. Which is with him talking about being on the board of maybe Gap or something like that, innit?
But people
And it makes sense.
people get scared that they think, oh, now they're gonna be in the position where do they think we're gonna fight like Joanne the scammer? All the white people to the back.
Yeah, for
Do you
real.
think we're gonna
It's not
walk
Robert
in
Mugabe
and
out
be
here,
like,
innit? It's
firing all the white people? No, what you're gonna have when you have a balanced board of people making decisions, if you have different perspectives. So when you've got stupid adverts coming out where you've had backlashes of people going, how did you ever think this is okay? You will have someone in the room to be like, no, actually, you can't run
don't do that.
You can't
Don't
do that. They don't have black people in the room. And that makes the difference with you need to have diversity in the decisions.
100.
You need to have a diverse perspective. I remember when, what's his name from Parliament? I've forgotten his name. Oh, cause so many names of them.
Not
Anyway,
David Lammy, is it?
no. But anyway, Sky News was actually questioning them on the diversity within
Oh,
Parliament.
it might have been Matt Hancock.
Yeah. And then Sky News asked, okay, what's the diversity? He said, we have diverse thoughts. He said he has diverse thoughts. What's a diverse thought?
That just means you see this as red and I see it as mauve. It's like, okay.
What? But that doesn't- and you know what it is? Also, people really undermine the value of lived experience. And I will say that from the areas that I've worked in homelessness, in domestic abuse, I look at sometimes the areas in where these laws are made and these rules are made and policies are made, and who's sitting in the room really talking about the lived experience? Because ultimately that's what your decision is going to be affecting. Same way you've got politicians who've never lived on minimum wage that want to talk about minimum wage or want to decide what a minimum wage is.
Oh, that's
Remember,
facts.
Boris is talking about he couldn't live on a certain wage or like the wage he's on right now is not enough, bro.
Yeah, all
Bro.
that kind of stuff makes no sense because, like, okay, if you're gonna serve the public or be a public servant, the best thing to do is see what it's like to be a member of the public, the most average member of the public, not the high life member of the public. Don't get me wrong, yeah. Attempting to run a country, quote unquote, is a very difficult job. You have a team around you and but as you said, if you're trying to make policies on something like minimum wage and not one member of the team has ever experienced what living on minimum wage is, let alone the fact that we had to bring in a thing called living wage because they still didn't understand what minimum wage was.
And some places still don't have that.
Yeah, like it's not working.
Exactly.
And that's what this whole year, as I said, I call it like the year of clarity, but like it's been as the year of transition or big year of scrutiny. Everything has been scrutinized, from the systems to the people as individuals to everything. And hopefully, this is very optimistic, but hopefully we'll come out of this with people having that sense of clarity to say, okay, cool, that was wrong. Let's adapt that. This can change. We don't need to do this anymore. Because there's been so many things.
Yeah.
Whether it's equality for women, whether it is black people, it's so many different ways, and that's why I'm like struggling for words because there's so many things this year. But yeah. It's a lot, man.
And you know what? Personally, I feel like I've come to the conclusion that I feel like politicians shouldn't be paid as much as they are. Because imagine if they weren't on the wage that they had, and
Shouldn't
imagine
be able
it was
to be
your
a career
average.
politician.
If it was an average wage, would half of the people that are in politics
Exactly.
right now still be doing it?
Why
Because
are
are
you
you
a
doing
career
it about?
politician?
Do you know what I mean? Would you be doing it because you genuinely want to take care of the population?
And this is what we always fixate and focus on the prime minister or the chancellor or They're MP, they're MPs who are just living cushy. Like, it's like, oh,
They are,
and
but they're actually supposed to speak for their constituency.
100, and it's like, I'm not gonna at my MP because
Yeah,
there's no
let's not do
point.
that.
But like, do you even
Some of
live
them
in
don't
the
even
area?
turn up to their surgeries.
Do you come? Yeah, do you come and talk to the public when you're meant to? Do you have those Q&As? All of that stuff. Like, do you do your job?
And I really hope when we get round to our next set of elections that we really remember this whole time, because it's always around election times. Everyone's active. They're here. They're there. The manifesto this. The manifesto. Have we looked at Boris's manifesto and Conservatives' manifesto, and have they delivered
They're in
half
for
of this?
time, man. So they're chilling right now.
And I get it. Fair enough. Okay, cool. Pandemic's come in, but actually, isn't this all what leadership's about?
100%.
It's not about what you plan is.
When
gonna go
everything's
to
rosy,
plan.
innit?
Do you know what I
it's
mean?
like, how do you?
You know
adapt
what?
to
Actually,
the
Boris,
situation?
and to be honest, I'm actually quite happy that it's Boris that's had to deal with this,
Can you
because
imagine if it was Jeremy?
yeah, he would have been absolutely.
Oh,
well, I
my
mean,
we wouldn't
I don't
hear
even
about
know if we can
anything
get
else
into
about
Jeremy
how
Corbyn.
bad
Yeah,
he would have been doing the job, even if he wasn't doing badly.
he would have been getting slaughtered.
But do you know what? I feel like this is a deep-ish topic that we've gone on for. And I don't want to end it on this as well. I don't know where to take it, but I just want people to, whatever comes from this.
But you know what?
This is all unfiltered. Like, we've just been
This
talking
is
and expressing
unfiltered,
ourselves.
but what
how
I
we
will
really
spin
feel.
it on is because of all of this that's gone on, it's really made me remember that, like, I'm on this earth from a moment in time, basically. I'm here to enjoy it. I'm here to do whatever I want, basically, and do what I love.
Yeah.
And this has made me really value the things that are actually valuable. People's time, people around me, what I create, stuff that I can really take responsibility for and own. So that's why even when my contract came to an end with the council, and normally my usual self would panic because I need to have a source of income. I need to provide for my family, to make sure we're all good. But I was like, this time, nah, I'm doing me. I'm doing me. I'm literally gonna step off that cliff and I'm gonna fly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make this work because I need time to create what I want to create.
Being selfish is not actually always a negative
I don't
connotation
think
around
it is
it,
a
man.
negative.
It's only if you're allowing yourself to become narcissistic or arrogant, or like your ego is putting you in front of
But
everyone all the time.
Is that being selfish? Because we're gonna get into this now.
Okay.
Very quickly.
Go on.
But because very quickly, because I think when we talk about the self, are we talking about the ego? Because I see it as two separate things: the self and the ego.
That's too deep to go into.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
So you're gonna have to say
because you're gonna try.
Like,
we're talking about identity. There
yeah,
and
but
how
I think
it
it is. But I think when you're doing it for
Yo.
oneself and it is about you, because even the term ish. It's not even really. Is it all when you say ish?
Ish usually means it's like
do you know what I
it's
mean?
kind of. It's kind
And
of.
now you're doing it, but people love to, and I find it that it's actually people who are more selfish that will use selfish in a negative term.
Well, they're
Because-
self-absorbed.
Do you know what I mean? Because I always find actually things before that I'd be told, nah, that's selfish, Amelia. Actually, that was me taking care of myself. That was me actually saying, no, I'm not in the space to deal with that right now. Or no, I don't want to do that. Or no, actually, I am going to do this for me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
That's the fact. Like, I feel like, because I said before, we all are of some form of service as people. In order to be of the best service, you have to be of your optimum, really, innit? Like, that's why I took so much time out, because I was like, I'm not good.
Yeah.
What's the point of me trying to like portray goodness?
You can't pour from an empty cup.
You know? Yeah, exactly. And it would just be false if I gave this narrative of,
Yeah.
okay, this is what's going on in my life right now, guys. I'm fine when I'm not fine. You're not. So do what you're doing, man. Look after yourself. Yeah. And as a freelancer as well, yeah. As I said, you have to determine what you're doing on a day-to-day, innit? So and this is not me just talking directly to you. I'm just thinking and speaking out loud as a freelancer as well. Like, in doing that, you have to make sure that as much as possible what you're doing is for your own benefit, and not in a way where it's financial benefit, but like you have enough time, you have enough mental clarity, you have enough food to eat, you have enough resources to help your family around, like, and you can only determine that for yourself, especially as a freelancer.
I think also as people, we need to respect when someone's being selfish.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
Take their time.
We need to be like, cool, I get it, and not see it as a, raw, you don't want to do this for me. No, like everyone's dealing with their own shit, basically. Everyone's doing whatever they have to do. And if that means that you're going to be in a better place, then fine.
Yeah.
If your mate doesn't want to come to something or whatever, cool.
Cool.
Fine. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
if we
accept
start, because that pressure of, I said I was going to do this, but I'm really not in the mood. What's the point then? Like, what's the point? Take the time that you need.
That's facts. Take the time that you need. Boom, this has been the first episode of In Facts.
We didn't even get, I knew we
episode
didn't get
00001. Yeah,
we
that's
didn't
why
even
we're
get
going to
to
have,
everything.
this is why we have, do you know what?
Yeah.
Going forward,
Yeah.
we're going to have guests on this show. We're going to have probably someone on this seat that we'll talk to about whatever it is. It could be all of the stuff that we experience. It could be stuff that they experience. We're going to have artists who will still come and perform. We'll have people that will talk about the process of their creation, whether it's film, videography. Samira, we're going to get you on the chair one day. I'm just letting you know, innit? Like, you're not going to hide behind the camera forever, innit? But that's what In Facts podcast is going to be. It's basically bringing the show just in a new format. We haven't gone away. We took a moment because it's necessary in this time. But yeah, man, I just hope everyone like enjoys what's going to come, because this is just the beginning.
This is just the beginning. And
Look how sick this room is as well.
we can chat.
Yeah, clearly, innit? Clearly, we can go.
We can talk. But anyway, also another thing that's going to be coming out is our tune is going to be coming
plug
out.
it now?
soon.
Yeah,
it's going to
let
be
the
coming
people
out.
know.
Which everyone get the vibes. But anyway, yeah, man, just make sure you just like, share, subscribe.
Okay, comment, subscribe, guys. Okay, guys. Thank you so much.
And
for your time.
yeah, man, it's gonna be good.